The Ryan Jespersen Show, weekday mornings at 9 on 630 CHED.
And we are back on the Ryan Jespersen Show, the final hour, just taking a quick look at the texts. Wrap things up and go observe the eclipse, you dummy. Hello, no mention of the once-in-a-lifetime solar eclipse happening right now. Wake up. We talked about the eclipse for a very, very long time. We had a guest on about the eclipse. But perhaps you missed that portion of the show. The show does go on for a number of hours, and we talk about different things at different times. But yes, there is a solar eclipse underway right now, if you haven't heard. And we've covered it. It's underway. Go out and look at it if that's your thing. Joining us in studio, we have Kara Deringer. And Kara, you're somebody who focuses on good things, right? Would that be fair to say?
That's completely fair to say.
And you just heard the texts. And I mean, people are angry. Does it seem to you that everybody's angry?
Well, you know, it's crazy. I do see a lot of that. For instance, I was just flying through Winnipeg and experienced the Winnipeg airport evacuation.
Oh.
And that can bring, that's a situation that can bring out the best and the worst in people.
Absolutely.
Just like any situation. And I am a big fan of positivity, and people bug me about group hugs, but I'm okay with that.
Okay, so a bit of background. You're a life coach. Is that what we call you?
That's right, yeah.
Now, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I hear a lot of people call themselves a life coach.
Yeah.
It seems pretty big. I mean, you got to coach somebody's entire life. Let's get into that a little bit. What makes somebody a life coach?
Well, you're right. There's a lot of people calling themselves a life coach. And I say at the end of the day, if you're looking for a life coach, it's about the connection with someone. So, it depends on their background, their experience. They might have coaching training, they might have academic training. But at the end of the day, it's someone that you think is going to challenge you and also support you in moving you forward. Why
would someone seek out a life coach? Is it financial? Is it career? Is it love? Where do they, where does it come in?
Oh my gosh, all of it.
Okay.
So I talk about upping the level of extraordinary in your life in all areas. So whether it be financial, family, work, and I find that most people are experiencing a significant challenge in a particular area of their life. That's what prompts them to seek a life coach.
But often when you have one particular challenge in your life, it spills over into other areas, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. So then if you're creating, breakthroughs in a certain area of life, that's going to also spill over into other areas. I've seen that time and time again.
Okay, now Kelsey booked you, and I think the reason she booked you, she was telling me, and I think she makes a good point, is when we watch the news, we're seeing Nazis marching in the streets. It just seems like an absolutely chaotic time.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the chaos, not all of it, but a lot of the chaos is really negative, and it's overwhelming at times. Are you seeing people saying, you know what, the world's gone crazy and I can't handle it?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was actually just in Detroit for a conference and stayed with this gal who I'd actually never met before. Most beautiful lady, and she offered up her house for me. I'd never met her before. Right? So it was great. So there's an experience of kindness and human connection. And at the same time, I'm hearing her and her husband and the other house guests speak all about Trump and how the things in the US are going crazy. So yeah, it's all around.
And it's not just Trump. We're seeing,
oh my gosh,
terrorist attacks happening in Europe. It seems like there's a lot of strife right now. And I think, it's my job. I do it all day, every day. And I find that sometimes I got to put it down and go on to something a little more uplifting. But does it have an impact on people that maybe they're not even aware of?
Oh, I think so for sure. When you say it's all around us, it's in the media, and the conference I was at was actually, it's perfect. We were talking about bringing more happiness and more good news stories to the media. I mean, we want to be realistic about what's actually going on in the world, but we do need to be aware of what of what's all around us, and then the impact of that on our daily actions, and the subconscious impact.
Like you say, you do want to know what's going on. You do want to stay informed. You do want to stay part of your local community, the national community, all around there. So you do tune into this sort of stuff. How do you manage it? How do you handle it?
Gosh, well, for me, and it's a personal choice, I like to be aware of it. Again, I like to be realistic, and at the same time, I don't get immersed in it. So I'm focused more on, community projects that I'm involved in, and my coaching business, which I love, and it's all about helping people. So I do think it's about your personal choices too, and what you choose to focus on. So there's nothing wrong with listening to the radio or reading the newspaper. And then, what do you do after that?
Right. Don't let it become sort of all you're doing.
Yeah. All you're talking about. I mean, watch coffee conversations, watch your conversations on the street, and, hang out with positive people. That will balance it out.
When we talk a bit about creating happiness, finding some peace, is that the best way to do it? I mean, what's if someone comes in and says, I've had enough, I'm frustrated, or I'm sad, or whatever, what's the first thing that you tell them they should be doing?
It completely depends on the person. I mean, my background is actually in conflict management. I have a master's in conflict management. So I again, I'm all about the idealistic, let's be happy and positive. And then
Right.
I also know that there's some real challenges we need to deal with in life. Some difficult relationships, some conflicts we need to work through. So it's both.
When you talk about the let's be positive and the positive attitude and stuff like that, just being completely honest, and I know I'm a horrible person for saying this, but a lot of times that comes off to me as phony.
Yeah.
People are putting it on, they're trying, but part of me thinks, yeah, but when you go home, you're just like everybody else. It gets to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I have a colleague who I really look up to because she's always positive. And
Right.
when I first met her, I thought it was phony. I thought it was put on.
Yeah.
And then the more I got to know her, the more I realized this is just her. This is who she's choosing to be in the world. Now, I would say she's an exception. That being said, you get to choose, how happy you're going to be and how you're going to portray yourself. And at the end of the day, I say it needs to be authentic. If you're not happy, don't pretend you're happy. If
Okay.
you're happy, say you're happy.
Is it the kind of thing where you can fake it till you make it, though? If you do have a positive outlook and you are approaching things with positivity, will things start to spin that way for you?
Well, I think so. I mean, I always say success breeds success. So, so the more, you focus on what's good, it's the cliche glass half full. I mean, it's true. I actually teach people because I think it's a skill and a habit to be looking for the good in what happened.
You deal, like we were talking before we went on the air, a bit about changing the whole conversation around some of the issues that we're seeing in society right now that are creating the chaos and the conflict for people. Do you deal in larger, that's a sort of a group think that you were talking about in terms of injecting some kindness, changing the way we approach some of these issues. Do you deal with, a group dynamic as well, or is it all one-on-one with you?
Good question. Yeah, I've worked with lots of work teams, so teams in organizations. And so I'm always looking at the big picture of, what's the environment of the
Right.
workplace, what's the management relationships, what are the relationships on the team. And the thing that fascinates me is human dynamics. So it's never an easy, I always say I don't come in with a magic wand to those types of situations. They're usually really complex, and it's just one step at a time.
And when we change the way we talk about things, I mean, I think the polarization that we see right now, where people don't even want to hear from somebody who has a differing opinion from them. They just completely discount it. Does that sort of lead into that empathy and that kindness where sort of, give people a chance? Is that a fair way of putting it? Sort of just opening up a little bit and saying, okay, I'm going to drop that guard and that immediate attack response that so many people seem to have right now?
Yeah, the benefit of the doubt. And I mean, I mean, when you're listening to how someone sees something differently or someone's giving you feedback, being open to it, it's all part of the same package, just opening your mind to what's going on for other people. It's simple, but it's not simple.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds simple, but it's hard to put into effect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to take a quick break here on the show. When we come back, though, we'll talk a bit more about being happy and how you can sort of create some happiness. And take your calls if you have them, or your texts at 496-0063, or text us at 630-630. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we're back on the Ryan Jespersen Show. The first reviews of the eclipse are coming in, and they are not good. Stupid eclipse, can't see a thing. Been staring at the stupid sun for the last hour. I can't see much at all. So our listeners are not enjoying the eclipse. I don't know, maybe it'll get better as we go along. It's still on for another hour and a half. I'd love to hear what you're thinking about the eclipse, but so far, our listeners are not impressed, unfortunately. I mean, it only happens like every couple of years and like once every 30 years in this part of the world. So I don't know. thought it would be more spectacular than that. Joining us in the studio this hour, we have Kara Deringer, who is a coach and a best-selling author of Chill, Creating Happiness in Life and Love. And, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, Kara, when I was telling my coworkers over at Global that I was having a life coach coming in for the last hour, these people who, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
Because I'm a project for a lot of different professionals, and they've all failed miserably.
Oh, really?
Now, you've brought in Glow Juice.
Now that's out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I've got my Coke Zero here, and I said if I drank that Glow Juice, I'd probably end up right in hospital because it's all healthy and stuff. There's people like me that I think, I don't want to say I'm in a rut, but I sort of like what I like. You know what I mean? And you're talking about a comfort zone.
Yeah.
How important is that? Is a comfort zone another way of saying a rut?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, you know, it can, a rut or a habit, it depends on the situation. So let's talk about this juice. This juice is pure fruits and vegetables, and it will make you glow. And so one of my passions is all about health, right? And so something that's out of my comfort zone around health is giving up sugar for sure, and carbs. Like I love bread and pasta.
What do you eat if you give up sugar and carbs?
Well, fruits and vegetables.
That's it?
That's when I feel best, honestly. But it's out of my comfort zone because I grew up eating all carbs. And but I do feel like I'm at my best when I'm eating healthy. So is it a rut for me to eat carbs? Is it a habit? It's kind of both. But at the end of the day, I feel better when I'm not eating carbs. And I get rashes on my skin from eating carbs. So different people are allergic to different things.
But if you love them,
I know
it makes you happy.
It does make me happy.
So if we're seeking happiness, you should be eating carbs.
Well, here's an example. Now I go out for pasta, right? Yeah. And I order. It's so weird. I go for the sauce with the chicken and the vegetables with no pasta. You
don't go and ruin it and make it out of spaghetti squash. My wife's done that to me.
Sometimes I do that, but you know what?
It's awful.
Sometimes I can take it, but there's one. So I like to go to Chianti's for their
Chianti's
pasta Monday,
pasta.
Tuesday. Oh, it's Monday now. So there you go. But yeah, they have this dish, and I tried it without the pasta, and you know what? I actually enjoyed it just as much. So there you go. That's something that
really?
I'm okay with that. But there are days where I just want the pasta, and I'm all in. It does make me happy, and it's about. I find that when you change your habits, this is around anything, whether it's the pasta or the juice or the speaking positively.
Yeah.
That the more you practice the habit, the happier you get. I mean, people who've quit smoking will say that. Well, I let go of the habit, and I'm actually a happier person.
Sure. Yeah. So making a change. It's taking that step to start making the change. And you don't know what's going to happen, right? But you got to try it.
Yeah, and it's not easy.
No, it's definitely not easy.
No.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the calls or texts that are coming in from... Jason wants to know if you have a juice made from steak. Good question, Jason.
That's a really good... You know what? And here's another thing. I didn't used to eat a lot of, red meat, and now I eat tons. So things change, too. People change. Their tastes change.
Yeah.
You know what? Call Glow Juice and see if they can make a protein steak juice.
I don't know if steak juice is all that appealing. I would definitely try. I love red meat. I could live on red meat. There's no doubt about it. Okay, now people are chiming in and saying they like the eclipse, but I knew that would happen. Okay, here's a really good question coming in. Can your guest define happiness? I am generally dead to most everything, and I find no excitement. Mm-hmm. Happiness is such a... it can mean a million different things to a million different people. How do we define it?
Well, it's a great question, and your point is actually perfect because it does mean different things to each person. So everybody's got their own definition of happiness. So in my programs, what I do is I walk people through identifying what does happiness mean in their life. And so we're looking at all their areas of life, finances, family, fun, career, all of the aspects, and looking at what's happiness going to look like for them. And it's also going to change. So if you're taking that first step in creating happiness, what are the first steps? What feels manageable and doable for where you're at right now?
Can some people be happy being not sad, but, a little bit like some people, and not speaking for myself necessarily, but sometimes I find satisfaction in being upset with things. You know what I mean? It's a default for me, and I'm sure it's not healthy, and you would tell me not to do it, but some people sort of default to that because it gives them something. It gives them some sort of satisfaction, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, even in, whether it's in the workplace and
Yeah.
or in our families, when we're upset, there can be something we get out of it. Like we get attention, or we get assurance, or someone does us a favor or gives us a gift, or, sometimes we have we don't want to admit it, but sometimes we have hidden agendas behind that upset. So the question is, can you actually create some of those other what you're getting out of it
Right.
from being upset in other ways?
How would you do that? What's a healthier way to do it instead of getting mad and, stamping your feet and having a little tantrum to get what you want? What's a better way to do it?
Well, here's the thing. I still have tantrums and I still get upset. I'm not going to pretend that I'm happy all the
Right.
time.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that.
And I have 3 kids, so.
Well, that'll do it.
But that being said, what I have been working on for myself too is getting out of it quicker. So even, for instance, last night I was upset about something. I said it, here's what I'm upset about.
Yep.
And we're over it, 15, 20 minutes later. And I actually had to coach myself into, I had a glass of wine. I sat on the porch for 20 minutes, sat
Yep.
with my partner while he barbecued. And that took me out of, what was kind of going sideways in the night.
So you have strategies in place.
I have strategies.
But I imagine it's the same thing as happiness. Those strategies can be different for every person,
Yeah.
whatever's going to be the trigger to turn things around, right?
Yeah, and people want to know some specific strategies,
Yeah.
like what can I do? And so part of it is individual, but if you want to get into today what people are asking and what people are looking for, can certainly do that, because there are some steps that help for people as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your book is called Chill, Creating Happiness in Life and Love. Can you truly create happiness all on your own? Like, let's say nothing else in your life changes and everything that's making you miserable, you've got no money, your job sucks, the home life is terrible, whatever. Can you create happiness in a situation like that? Or do you have to create change that in turn creates happiness?
Okay, so say more about creating change.
Like saying, okay, you know what? I hate my job. I can't stand my job.
Right.
Do you have to get out of that job?
Okay, good question. So sometimes yes, and sometimes it's a switch of perception. Sometimes it might be taking some time off. I know for myself, there was a time at one of my jobs that I was really unhappy. I left for a year. I went back and I was a different person in the exact same job. So you know what? I don't know, but yeah, there are people who need to leave their jobs, and that's a good thing.
Okay. So don't necessarily think that you can. Sometimes the thing that you think is making you miserable is what's making you miserable, and you need to change that. You can't just change it on your own by thinking differently.
Right. Yeah. No, it isn't just as easy as saying,
Right.
I'm going to be happy now.
Okay.
Starting now.
An interesting. Yeah. From now on, I'm happy.
That's right.
And that's that. Here's an interesting one. Reality versus expectations equals happiness. That's coming in from one of our listeners. How much... I imagine that's a big part of it, right? Reality versus what you want from reality. If they don't match up, that can make you miserable.
Yeah, I mean, I love that the topic of expectations, because so much of what upsets people, disappoints people, makes people angry, they get upset with other people, blame other people, is that we're setting our own expectations.
Right.
Yeah, based on, it might be what's happened in the past or what other people are saying. Classic is people talking about their spouse, and then you have expectations of your spouse based on what's going on in another relationship. So yeah, really watching expectations. Expectations happen.
Sure,
Expectations
of course, yeah.
are real. The key, though, is to recognize them and actually look at a situation for what it is, rather than what it should be based on your expectations.
And especially if the other person doesn't know what those expectations are.
Yeah. Well, and maybe you could share your expectations
Sure.
and they'd be happy to live up to them. Or maybe they wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. I guess if everybody's on the same page and they know what, the outcome, desired outcome is, it's easier to get there, right?
Yes.
Just taking a look at some other stuff that's coming in. Nothing wrong with getting mad. Anger is a real emotion. I mean, you're not saying you have to be happy all the time.
No, I'm not. No, not at all. No. And my family would attest again, like I said.
And that can be a motivation, right? I would imagine, you can use anger or frustration to sort of spur change.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's lots of women that I work with around creating boundaries. And, there isn't a ton of conversation and communication around how to create boundaries in a real way. Like, let's be real about it. So, and there's so many different strategies around creating boundaries, for instance. And that doesn't have to be an angry conversation. But the thing is that to find a boundary, often you have to get angry first. So first
Right.
you get angry and then you recognize, oh, okay, that's a boundary of mine. But then you have to think it through and be able to articulate it.
And the person hearing it has to be able to take it without getting defensive and reacting.
Right. And
Which
then,
is hard.
Yeah. And then you have to be ready for whatever that other person says, because they might react really well or they may really react. And you have to be really confident, clear in yourself in order to be able to handle that.
See, now for a big chicken like me, it's easier to just forget about it. Don't even bring it up. See, that's the thing. It's the whole conflict, right? But then it just builds and builds.
Well, and that's, conflict avoidance is actually a legitimate strategy. There may be times where that makes
I'm
you
good
happy.
at that one.
As long as it's a little thing and you can let it go, that's a good thing.
But it shouldn't be your default, because sometimes you
Right.
need to have a conflict.
Yeah, even avoidance, that can be a habit in itself.
It certainly can.
Seems to be habits.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick break for the 11:30 news and come back and continue this discussion. If you have questions for our life coach, give us a call, 496-0063. Send us a text to 630-630. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we're back on the Ryan Jespersen Show. Just a couple more reviews of the eclipse. Love the eclipse. I can see it great. I've stacked 6 sunglass lenses, and it's awesome. I don't think that's good. I don't think you should do the sunglass lens thing. Looking at the eclipse with welding glasses, you can see it perfectly, and it's awesome. That's good. I think, the welding glasses is good. And another one, the sky is clear. Who are you even talking to? I'm viewing it through 2 sets of gas station sunglasses. Again, I wouldn't recommend that. 14 and better welding glass is what you need to view the eclipse. We have Kara Deringer in the studio with us this morning. She's a coach and an international best-selling author. Her book is called Chill, Creating Happiness in Life and Love, and Chica, Creating Happy, Inspiring, and Curious Adventures. And, we're asking people to give us their thoughts and their questions for you. And we've had a couple of them, but some of them are I think a lot of these are universal. I think a lot of people have the same questions. And for a guy like me who, I don't want to say I like being miserable and I like being angry, but I kind of do. It's kind of where I'm used to being. And is that normal? Are there people out there who get some satisfaction from being sort of angry and frustrated and that sort of thing?
Well, I think there's a difference between being angry and frustrated and real, steady, and authentic. So I have a cousin.
That's what I am.
Okay, that's because you don't strike me as someone who's negative. I mean, I came in, you're smiling, we've had great conversation. So it doesn't mean that you're a person who's going to be over the top happy, maybe like the person I mentioned, earlier, my colleague. That's just not you. It's not real. But what I would love to, say look at would be what would make you happier. It doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden going to become a different person.
Right, yeah.
And at the same time, you have an elevated level of satisfaction in your life.
Because, I don't think overall I'm an unhappy person.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not miserable with my life, and I'm not looking to make great big changes and all the rest, because generally I'm pretty satisfied, but I do find things frustrating and I do find things irritating and aggravating that other people might not. And I don't know if it's a bad thing or not. Do you think it is?
No? I mean, let's be real. We live in a world where, we need to drive through traffic.
Yes, I hate traffic.
I know.
Have you seen me tweeting about the trains?
No, I
have a hashtag called Stupid Train. There's a train on 50th Street that makes my life miserable.
Right. Yeah. So that's real.
But I love being angry about that
You
train.
like being angry about that. Okay.
I do. I don't know why.
Well, what does that give you when you're angry about that?
I've said this many times. Righteous indignation is probably my favorite thing on earth. When you have a right to be angry and you just let it go, that really, for some reason, I get a kick out of that.
Okay. Well, you know what? We were talking about the eclipse and whether the eclipse is your thing and not your thing.
Not my thing.
So you know what? If you get a kick out of being angry about the train, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
It's
as
cool?
long as you're not an overly negative person all the way around.
I don't think I'm overly negative. But now your book, Chill, and your other book, Chica, is all about creating happy.
Yeah.
Okay, so for a guy like me, I don't go out of my way seeking happy things. I'll go to a movie.
Yeah.
I'll play my guitar. Things that I know make me happy and a little more peaceful and calm. What kind of things can a guy who's generally just sort of, irritable, how can I create happy?
Yeah.
Should I create happy? Do I have a problem?
I don't think you have a problem.
Well, others would disagree. But
I don't think you have a problem. And that being said, again, it's that difference. We're always looking for what's wrong. We're always looking to fix stuff, right? So we're looking for what's wrong. And I always say it's not that it's wrong. It's just what would bring, again, that extra level of satisfaction and happiness. So one of the things that I work with a lot of people on in one of my programs, it's called Powerful Purpose and Passion, is looking for that deeper meaning. So there's a lot of people saying, yeah, I'm happy. I go from day to day and I'm okay. And I say, okay isn't good enough. So what would bring that extra level of fulfillment? And for a lot of people, it's contribution, actually. It's looking at how they can contribute at a deeper level.
And you're talking like even volunteering or that sort of thing?
It can look like so many different things. But the first thing is finding your passion. So for some people, it might be pets. For some people, it might be supporting, new immigrants. You're talking about immigrants.
Right. Yeah. Lots of people get very involved in that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Community supports, and I always say it doesn't have to look like raising money for things. Big Brothers, Big Sisters, United Way. There's so many organizations out there. Some people create their own organizations. Maybe it's a community event. Maybe it's a block party.
A lot of that sounds to me, and I think this is important, is just forming connections.
Yes.
Being part of something, right?
Yeah.
How big is that?
Yeah, being part of something bigger, because when people are connected, it's community, the power of community. When people are connected to something bigger, there's a deeper level of fulfillment. And I don't make this stuff up. I hear this from person to person to person that I work with. And when they create that connection at a deeper level, it could be to pets, honestly, animals, to their community.
I coach minor hockey, and that is that kind of thing, which is huge for me. I love it.
Exactly.
It's just getting involved and contributing in some way.
Yeah.
Being value added.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one simple way. Give. Get involved and give of time, money, whatever skill, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. That's one good way. What else do you recommend for people that, we don't need to change everything overnight. What's another small way to get started?
Oh my gosh, random acts of kindness. So for instance, I was just at the airport the other day. The gal in front of me was counting out pennies. Mm-hmm. And then she walked away without taking the brown bag that's on the counter. So I asked the teller, what happened? Was she short? And she said, yeah, by $1. And I said, no worries. So I run after the gal and I say, I'll get it for you, like this crazy lady. I'll get it for you. So I paid for her muffin or whatever. So random acts of kindness, just giving compliments, sincere, genuine compliments. Here's one. So many people, we write in about our complaints around customer service. Yeah. Writing in about people who do exceptional work.
That's making you happy, and it's also making somebody else happy when they get the positive feedback.
It makes the person who's getting the positive feedback happy, and it certainly makes their boss happy.
So now we're spreading happiness around.
Spreading it.
That's fantastic. When we talk a bit about, helping others and stuff like that, like you say, it can be just something very small. The smallest gesture can make a big difference. Like, how many times have you gone through the drive-thru and you get up to the window and the person says, the guy in front of you got it?
Yeah.
It can be the smallest little thing like that, but it can make a big difference for them and then for you, correct?
Yeah. Well, and you know what? It can ripple through communities and cities. So, if, for instance, you create a block party, all of a sudden everyone on your block is connected, your stuff is safer because everyone's watching out for each other. Your kids are safer. Your kids are happier. I know my kids, they're always running over to the neighbors to play, and it's awesome.
Now, you talked a bit about healthy living, and I don't want to dwell on that too much, but how important is that to overall general happiness and feeling good about your life in terms of eating well, exercising, all that sort of stuff?
Well, health is the foundation. As soon as we get sick, whether it's a little bit sick or, whether it's an irritant or it's a sickness or it's a disease, whatever level of health issues, health is the foundation. Absolutely.
So you got to be aware of that. You can't overlook that.
No, and there's actually people who come to me. I said there's a lot of people that come to me on a certain area. That's sometimes the area that they come to me on. They just want to work on being more healthy, and they want to drink and eat healthier stuff. I know you're looking sheepish.
What if eating and drinking healthily doesn't make you happy? It makes you sad, and exercise makes you angry. Then what do you do? Now you're stuck.
Well, you're really stuck. Well, and then maybe it looks like going for a walk with your kids or your partner, or
still exercise.
anything. There's so many different forms, or golf, or curling is
barely exercise.
Curling is barely, but at least for someone, actually curling might be upping their level of fitness in their life, and there's no problem with that.
Yeah, anything's better than nothing.
Yeah.
We need to take a quick break. We'll be back with more on the Ryan Jespersen Show. And we're back with Kara Deringer, a life coach and author of Chill, Creating Happiness in Life and Love, and Chica, Creating Happy, Inspiring, and Curious Adventures. Just taking a look at some of the text, Kara, and there's some questions for you. This is a tough one. Do you have any advice for someone going through a very negative event like a divorce? Any tips on how to be happier?
Oh my gosh. Well, here's the thing. That was the event that spurred me to write my first book, Chill, Creating Happiness in Life and Love.
There you go. So you speak from experience on this one.
I speak from experience. Oh my gosh. It is one of the most difficult things to go through, and there's other difficult events that people go through, losing a child.
Sure.
My partner just lost his mother this year. There's so many turning points in our lives, and really events that test us at our deepest levels. So tips on going through it. Wow. I would say definitely focus on health. So health first. That was one thing that I really had to make sure that, because I was going through so many emotions, that my physical health was probably at its highest level at that point.
And that, how important is, just to have that, like you said earlier, it's a foundation, right?
It is, yeah. So taking care of yourself, allowing for help, reaching out for help. Some people will offer. My experience in going through my divorce was that a lot of people, they didn't know how to help, or they didn't know whether to bring it up or not bring it up, and the truth is, you're losing someone who's such a part of your life. They're all of a sudden they're gone, but people don't treat it like death, right?
Right, yeah.
It's such a difficult experience, and especially when kids are involved too.
You mentioned asking for help, and I know for me, by the end of this interview, you're going to realize I'm barely human in many ways. I have a horrible time asking for help. Yeah. But it's kind of interesting what you said. People don't know how to help. I find that even harder. Like, I'm fine to not ask for help. I'm used to it now.
Sure.
But then I'll get angry about the fact nobody's helping me. But when I see people need help, I don't know what to do. And again, as we said earlier, I hate conflict to the point where I'll just avoid that. That's a big enough conflict for me to run away and just pretend nothing happened. What do you do there? Do you just go back to the tiny little act of kindness as a place to start?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. Tiny little act. And then also just asking, hey, is there anything I can do to help? And sometimes that broad question, is there anything I can do? It's too broad.
It's too much.
So you may say, could I do this? Could I do that? Could I do this? And then just with a caveat of saying, I don't want to intrude. I want to be helpful. I don't want to step on your toes. So what if there's some sort of hesitation, just saying that out loud and letting the person know you're only human after all. You're doing your best too.
The other side of that coin, and once again, I'm talking about myself here. Clearly, I need help. Everybody can see it.
Well, awareness is the first step.
I'm not asking for help, but people see I need help, so they give me help, and then I'm angry that they gave me help because they're judging me because I need help.
Okay, so then in that case, you can feel the judgment, and that's because other people, they might be trying to change you. And I always say at the end of the day...
So it's their fault?
It might be. No. Let's not throw anyone under the bus here. We're talking about kindness. But sometimes too, we want to help people, but there's judgment laid into it. So for instance, when I was young growing up, I wanted my dad to quit smoking in the worst way.
Right.
But I was also judging him, for being bad for smoking. And finally I had to let go of, what? And he still smokes. This is who he is, and it's all good. He's an awesome dad. He's an awesome person. Doesn't change it. Yeah, I wish that he didn't smoke because he had better health, but it is what it is.
But what if you're that person who sees judgment where there isn't judgment, and sometimes you just don't react to the help or the kindness nicely?
Okay, so you actually think that people have negative intentions when they're just
reaching
out.
Or you feel a sense of shame or sort of, oh my goodness, people think I need help, and that's enough to make you just want to crawl into a hole.
Okay. Well, if there's a sense of shame, I would say there's probably something within you that's recognizing there is something you want to work on, and you might be pushing it away. Because if you were really okay and people were reaching out, then you'd just be okay to say, no, I'm good, thanks. But if there's something around you thinking that other people are judging you or there's shame, then there's something going on internally that to be worked out.
So it's not their fault.
Not always.
Dang it. All right, we need to take a break. We'll be back to wrap things up here on The Ryan Jespersen Show right after this. And we are back to wrap things up here on The Ryan Jespersen Show. We're with Kara Deringer, who is a coach and international best-selling author of a couple of books, Chill, Creating Happiness in Life and Love, and Chica, Creating Happy, Inspiring, and Curious Adventures. And we're talking about happiness and how to be happy. From Camrose, happiness requires guitars. Lots and lots of guitars. Camrose, I couldn't agree with you more. That's my therapy, to be honest with you. When I'm having a tough time or I'm really, really upset and I can tell, I grab my guitar and it all goes away. I don't think you can overstate the power of music, personally, for me. Do you agree?
Well, first of all, Camrose is my hometown. So
there you go.
Hello, Camrose. Yeah, music is powerful, and and everyone has the thing that where they find their happy place. So it might be yoga, or a bubble bath, or a massage,
right?
Or,
yeah.
A coffee with a good friend. I said, don't go for coffee, though, if you're going to gossip and be negative. But, music is powerful. For some people, it's going to live music events.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a question I've had discussions with another coworker over and over and over. Sometimes you'll find yourself listening to sad music, and it's perfect.
Okay.
Does the music find you, or do you seek it out?
Gosh, well, I think there's music for all occasions,
there is.
Right? Sometimes you need some sad or maybe some angry music to work through some emotions. Yeah. And just, again, not to get absorbed in it. And then, maybe you go to your sad place for 10, 20 minutes and then you put on the
you get it out, you deal with it.
I like the journey. Journey, don't stop believing.
Okay, just before we get out of here, a couple of questions from our listeners. Health is the foundation of happiness. This assertion fails to explain sick people that are happy. I don't think necessarily it does, but you want to talk a bit about that?
Well, yeah. There's some people who sickness is just a part of their lives.
It's their normal, right?
Yeah, and it's reality. It's what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I know some people who are sick, and unfortunately, that it really takes over their lives. There's other people who have diseases or illnesses, and they're able to find their happy place. And that can depend on your disease or illness and the extent to which you're able to move around or get out and about or work or whatever it is. But again, it's regardless. I always say regardless of your circumstances, and some circumstances don't change. If, for instance, you're divorced or you have a disease, or people have tough circumstances. Maybe you're an immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is, and it's about working with those circumstances.
See, I think I would be one of those people that would be resentful at the world.
Yeah, some people are.
Which would probably just eat you up, right?
Oh, it's difficult. Resentment, whether it's at something or someone, it's toxic. It's toxic, yes.
What's that saying about resentment is poison that you take and hope somebody else dies? Is that what it is, or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. You know what? This has been a great discussion, Kara. I really appreciate you coming here and talking about this. One tip. Right now, somebody is all charged up about whatever the case may be. The train, terrorism, Trump, whatever it is. It's just driving them nuts. What do they do right now to make it better?
So find something right away that's going to make you happy.
Just a quick fix. You're at work.
Music, go for a walk, grab a drink of water, talk to someone who's positive, and plan something to treat yourself.
There you go. Focus on the things that bring you joy rather than the things that make you miserable.
Exactly.
Is it that simple, really?
Sometimes.
That easy? Okay. Good stuff, Kara. Thank you so much for coming in today. That is going to do it for this Monday morning show. Once again, the name of the books, Chill, Creating Happiness in Life and Love, and Chica, Creating Happy, Inspiring, and Curious Adventures. Shay Gannon filling in for Ryan today. Thanks for being with us. We're back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Talk to you then.
The Ryan Jespersen Show, weekday mornings at 9 on 630 CHED.